Here's a pachycephalosaur skull. Turtle poop. Could be about 20 million years old. Found this in Peru. It's an axe head from a battle axe. I've got a T-Rex tooth here somewhere. Here's a box from Hawaii. This is from Camilo Beach on the Big Island. Here's remnants of a bottle. This is what's left of a manufacturer of flip-flops. This is a hagfish trap. More bottles, more brushes. Anything you can think of made in plastic is here. It's like your local department store washed ashore. Plastic is going to be the future fossil. Let's say a million years from now, you're going to get this layer of plastic that blankets the planet. If there are paleontologists about, they will dig down, and when they find that plastic layer anywhere in the world, they can say, this is the age of humankind.
We have this deep, million-year-old affinity to water. The earliest human remains ever found are near an estuary. I think this ancient connection makes us see ourselves in a different context. The ocean connects us all.
When I was a little boy, the first neighborhood I lived in was called Atlantis, right off of the Atlantic Ocean. And that's where I first discovered like my love for music, through the motion of water. My imagination ran wild, and so I just have a connection with the ocean. It yields so much life, including our own. So we owe it.
Life in the ocean has been evolving for tens, hundreds of millions of years. And then along came petroleum. And we started using petroleum to create plastic.
Plastics were really heavily marketed to consumers as a time-saving device, as a matter of convenience. I don't think people were thinking in the 50s and 60s, what's going to happen to all this stuff?
We often talk about the Stone Age, Iron Age, and the Bronze Age. And people are starting to refer to this age as the plastics age. It's in everything.
It's weird that plastics could ever have such a profoundly dark effect on our future.
The fact that it is so cheap, that it is so durable, that it's literally built to last forever. We're only starting to see the implications of that now. And I think when we just throw it all into a bin and it disappears, people don't give much thought to where it goes.
We make 288 million tons of plastic annually. That means every 4 years, we make 1 billion tons of plastic. Where does it go? It may make its way into the waste management system. Now, what escapes the waste management system is heading out to sea. If it were paper, metal, or glass or wood, it would either oxidize, biodegrade, or be just inert and not matter. Whereas plastic just persists. It persists. In the span of just 50 years using plastic, we have plasticized our planet.
You can go out in pretty much any ocean anywhere in the world, dip a net, and find evidence of plastic. It gets there through our storm drains, through our rivers. It literally blows out of garbage cans and falls out of dump trucks.
I hear there's a huge pool near the Pacific where just garbage is just swirling in circles.
Apparently there's some like humongous area of the Pacific Ocean that's covered in floating trash.
They've got that giant like garbage island in the Pacific Ocean. It's like miles and miles of trash.
Garbage island? What are you talking about?
Can't really see it in aerial photographs or anything. It's just kind of rumored.
Everyone who's ever been with me out to these garbage patches has been transformed. These are the remotest parts of the planet, but just about anything you throw into the ocean that floats will end up there. This is where we've organized all the samples from our latest voyage. This is what our ocean is like now. This is what it's full of. If you have a beach in the middle of the ocean, this is what will wash up on it. I actually discovered the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in 1997. Here I was 1,000 miles from land, and I couldn't come on deck without seeing some small bit of civilization floating by. And I wanted to come back and measure and just see how much was there. Survey, less than 1 hour. In 1999, we found 6 times as much plastic as plankton by weight. In 2009, we found an average of about 36 to 1, and I'm thinking it's going to be in the hundreds to 1 now.
It's bizarre to imagine that the things that we use for a day, for a moment, for 10 seconds, will be here long after our great-grandchildren. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they eventually break down. They become smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces become part of the sand, part of the animals. That's super creepy.
We live in the most highly educated society that has ever evolved on this planet. Everybody knows. The real problem is getting everybody to care. Right now, I would estimate 700 million tons of plastic in our oceans. That's like a resource waiting to be mined, waiting for people to profit from.
When you look at ocean plastic, then you see first waste that is useless. But when you look again, you see a valuable working material.
We make the weight of every man, woman, and child on Earth in plastic every year. Can you imagine if we recovered that and reused it?
Being a surfer has allowed me to understand that nature's unpredictable, that we don't have much control over how the weather is going to be, but we as humans have the control to reduce our impact on those environments, to keep our beaches the way nature intended them to be. And being a surfer, you see firsthand that this work's needed.
We are headed to South Point, Big Island, and then to Camilo Point. The south point of this island is super barren, pretty trippy looking out there. You got a lot of solitude and a lot of space. It might seem odd that there's all this trash washing up on the beach, but when you take a closer look at it, you start to understand why. It's all trash from the garbage patch. We found trash all the way from Asia, from the United States, from Russia. People say, oh, we're just gonna throw it away. We like to say away is Hawaii. You know, we're the away.
We are miles and miles and miles from any civilization. It's not what you would expect, but the fact that you end up at a beach that's littered with plastic is kind of a shocker.
The first time I came down here, I was completely overwhelmed. You're in the middle of an 80-mile stretch of no development, yet we're accumulating just tons and tons of plastic debris. This one is Korean. You know, it just speaks to the problem. This is a global issue, and the Hawaiian archipelago is the most isolated island chain in the world, and yet we're finding objects that have washed in from far corners of the world. We're all more connected than we realize. There are things that we use and we discard, and we don't ever think about them again, but we should, because these things will be here long after we leave.
This is a HTP milk carton that has been gnawed on by a bunch of fish. We find all kinds of bottles like this. There's evidence of fish eating plastic all over the beach. Here's another one. The chemicals that are in that plastic make their way up the food chain, and now they're in us because we're eating those fish.
When a small fish eats, say, 10 small pieces of plastic, a bigger fish eats maybe 100 or 200 of those smaller fish. All of those contaminants are becoming more and more concentrated as they work their way up the food chain, until it comes to you and I, and we're at the top of that food chain. Today, the norm is that any one of us could look at the chemicals in our body and find that, yes, we have like heavy industrial chemicals stored in our blood.
Every human being carries a burden of synthetic chemistry. That's a new reality. And what those long-term effects are, we just don't know.
People talk about environmental issues like this is what might happen in the future. We only have 10 years for this to change. We're here. The shit's hitting the fan now. This isn't about a prognosis for the future. There's plastic in us. There's plastic in the most wild animals and on the bottom of the seafloor in places where it shouldn't be. It's not an imagined future state. This is a current scenario.
地球の未来、前向きなものを感じますか?
C'est la merde.
C'est la merde. Monde de merde.
I have this voice in the back of my head saying like, it doesn't really matter in the end because we've kind of ruined the planet too far at this point.
I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but I'm not totally optimistic.
I'm really hopeful. I'm not a pessimist when it comes to this. There's a lesson in everything. That's what this is about.
When I see debris all over the beach, the feeling that leaves me with is an opportunity. Opportunity to figure out a way to solve this problem versus just giving up hope.
Humans adapt. And one of the ways people are adapting is they're turning this mess into other new products. They're doing science, they're doing research, they're communicating, and they're being creative. That's what we do. That's what we humans do so well.
There is no need to produce new plastic. We already produced enough. So why do we leave this high valuable material out there when we need it in our production cycles, when we need it in everyday products? The solution is so complex that not one person can solve it. So Parley unites partners in every category of industries to develop new ways of doing business to protect our oceans. When we looked at the ocean plastic pollution problem, we came to one key idea: to turn ocean plastic debris into an asset, to turn it into an amazing material for the fashion industry, something that is sexy, something that has a story. We found Bionic Yarn and realized that they're the perfect first partner because they can turn low-grade plastic into a high-profile material.
I need to give back to the place that's responsible for giving me this life. Bionic Yarn was a way to tie. There was a way to give back to the universe.
Bionic Yarn is a yarn spinning process that takes recycled plastic bottles and turns them into a high-quality yarn and fabric. We take a plastic bottle, we shred it into flakes, melt them, extrude them into fibers, spin them into a yarn, and then helix them with another fiber, like cotton, to create a surface over the recycled plastic. And we decided we should really try to address this issue of plastics in the oceans.
Everything has a purpose, even trash, and we should be accountable for everything. The basic idea is to synchronize the economy and the environment by pulling out the plastics from the ocean, keeping it on land, and making it into products that we could use. And G-Star's kind of been on the radar for Bionic Yarn for a long time.
G-Star decided they wanted to get involved, and that becomes something interesting. That's when you get 1 and 1 makes 3.
Roll for the Oceans is a collection of product to make the world's first denim from recycled ocean plastic. We're replacing 25 to 30% of the fabric with bionic yarn. And Pharrell is co-designer of the collection. It's a multi-stakeholder project that combines science, activism and fashion. And generally, that's a strange combination. But innovation comes from a lot of different people working together.
Aesthetically, there are some interesting things that I feel like that we're accomplishing. But when you realize what it is that we're attempting to do, pulling the roughage from the ocean, recycling the plastic bottles to make new yarn versus making new polyester, what it represents is what makes it so special.
Usually fashion is something for vanity, but I think bionic yarn now represents transformation and the ability to take something bad and to make it good.
The Raw for the Ocean collaboration is not the solution for the problem, but it shows a direction. And it shows big companies that it's pretty lucrative to be involved. And G-Star has the power to change the whole category of denim and the whole way things are made. The idea is really here to establish a new mindset within the fashion industry and inspire other segments of business and economy to follow that.
The strength of an ecosystem is in diversity. The strength of any movement must also lie in diversity. All social revolutions in history have been carried out by individuals, passionate individuals, people who discover things, people who build things, people with ideas. There are ways of solving a lot of these problems if we can just harness our imagination to find solutions through everybody's particular, love. What do they love to do?